You're brand new. I show up.
Yeah.
What's the first thing we're doing?
All right, you have to be okay with losing a little bit of strength. It's fine.
Have you worked with people in the sense that maybe have been able to overcome things mentally because they've been able to learn to move their body?
The habits that you have in your life are the same habits that are going to show up when you do move.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talkin St. Pete. I am your host, Ryan Bogdan. Before we jump into today's guest, I just want to give a big thank you to everyone who is listening, watching, subscribing, liking, following, sharing with a friend. We're really appreciative. We're having amazing guests come on, and I'm very excited to introduce today's guest. But one last thing before we do that, I want to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Bogdan Homes. If you know anyone who's looking to buy a home, sell a home, invest in real estate, or just need some resources and wants to know about St. Pete, we are Talkin St. Pete, so send them our way. And now for today's guest, we have Jason Lapiana. This guy, it's going to be very hard, I think, to describe what you do, so you're going to have to follow him on Instagram. We'll get his handle up on the screen right here. Put that on there, please, gang. He is an instructor at Move and can do amazing things that I haven't seen many people be able to do with their bodies, from handstands to holding a friend of yours on your back and doing a handstand, all kinds of cool flips and stuff, and I can't wait to dive in to figure out Jason, how did you get into this method of fitness?
Yeah, it's been a long journey. I've been physical like my whole life, so that's been the foundation of it. So
did you play sports growing up?
Oh yeah, tons of sports. Yeah, tons of sports. So like growing up, I didn't start with gymnastics, calisthenics, anything like that. I grew up in New York, and out there, just where I grew up, was a lot more of an influence on like team sports and play. Like we just had a lot of different physical games to play with. So like just growing up, like the emphasis on physicality and play was tremendous. And it was at a time where it was like, video games and technology wasn't as prominent as it is now. So there was so much more of an ability to like gather your friends together. Like, what do? We got a ball, we got 2 balls, we got 3. We like, what games can we create, So that was essentially how I started getting into just more in love with movement, is just having just so much fun with my friends, just playing, And then it transitioned more into actual sports, organized sports. So I grew up playing baseball, basketball, a little bit of football, but mostly the team sports starting with. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so we got the sports journey. You come from New York. How long have you been in St. Pete?
I've been here probably about 6-7 years on and off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I came down here from New York to play baseball on a baseball scholarship. And then I just stayed, man. It was like growing up in New York, the weather was brutal. And one of the things I always envied about Florida was like the ability to train all year long. Like with the baseball guys specifically, I was like, I hate them because they could just all year long, they're playing and they're getting so much better than us. And we're like refined to having to, go inside into gyms and train in there. So it was something when I got down here and I realized, man, this like climate is so conducive to movement. It just felt good. It just felt really nice.
Something about that sunshine just really makes you want to be outside, move, and do all the fun things.
Absolutely.
All right, so you're down here for baseball. You're going through all that on scholarship, but now this particular type of movie, could you describe it for people in the best visual aspect that you can? Well, I mean, I think we'll be able to put some clips up to show some of the cool things that you got going on.
Well, some of the stuff that my first influence into it was a method called Ido Portal Method. So before I like got into any of the stuff that I kind of do now, I was very much just into sports, general strength conditioning, lifting. In school, I got my degree in exercise science, so I actually started getting into like bodybuilding, strength training with the weights and stuff like that. So I had a good familiarity with that. But then my brother introduced me to something called Ido Portal Method, which was this guy who was moving his body in these unbelievable ways and kind of combining a bunch of different movement disciplines. And he was also insanely fit doing it. So it wasn't like, it looked like somebody who lifted. It looked like somebody who stretched, somebody who could move well. And it was different than, typical people that you see at the gym just walking around lifting weights. So I was getting to the point with lifting that I was starting to feel that, where I was like, okay, where is this going in terms of I'm losing some of my athleticism for my sports. I'm getting strong, but I'm not applying it in these other ways, especially now that I'm not competing. So I was looking at this method And then I started to look at different teachers in the area who were teaching it, because it was relatively new. It was around like 2000, maybe 2013 or something like that, where it was starting to come out.
Where people are recognizing this type of exercise and this movement.
Exactly. It was starting to catch a little bit of traction in some of like the holistic health circles and stuff like that. But again, it was more people just being ultra impressed with the way this guy moved versus like there being some specific programming on it. So it was like really hard to find information on how to start it. So it's like there was videos on YouTube on stuff to play with. And essentially what his method or program pretty much broke down was he was drawing from different disciplines in terms of gymnastics, strength training, flexibility training, mobility training, martial arts, some team sports stuff. So there was a wide variety of movement disciplines within one pretty much training program. And that really drew my attention. And I love the variety of it because it looked like you were developing a body that can move well, look good, be flexible, feel good. Like it looked very comprehensive. So I started to look for teachers in the area, and I met one in Tampa, and that's where I really started to get some knowledge on it. His name's Jeff Foxenberger. He runs a facility in Tampa called Movement Therapy. And he was really the first guy that really started educating me and giving me some references and tools to practice within this.
And so how long ago was this?
This was, again, around like 2013, 2014.
Okay,
yeah. So it was around then. And yeah, it was amazing because he was in it a little bit longer than me. He was a bit older than me. So he had some really nice tools. He was teaching it with some of his athletes. He would teach it to University of Tampa soccer players and his athletes. And it was awesome to see some of the athletes use this, and they were training different. They were working on balance and coordination and certain tasks that, like, if you go to regular strength conditioning facilities, you really don't see a lot of the athletes working on. So he was working on some of these details that were really interesting to me, and I loved playing with the stuff that he was giving me.
Give me an example. What's some of the things that, like, so you start out 2013, so almost 2014,
Yeah.
almost 10 years ago. You meet this guy. You come to him. You're like, yo, I lift weights and I can play sports.
Yep.
And he's like, okay, I need you to do.
Yeah, exactly. So like I came to him with already some stuff being like, can you break some of these things down? One of the things that put my mind in one of the biggest headlocks was something. It was this crawl called the lizard crawl. So there was
what does that look like?
Maybe you could pull up a video or a quick one of like Ido's lizard crawl.
Lizard crawl.
It's one that when I first saw Ido's work, I saw him do this lizard crawl, and it looked so good. Like it just looked like it was so healing for the body. And it's this very, very low crawl to the ground, and it's like you're moving almost like a lizard throughout. So it's a.
Are you on hands and feet?
Hands and feet. So I would try it for the first time. You know, my brother showed it to me, and I was like, dude, I have no idea how to get this. This is unbelievable. So Jeff had it completely clean, and he was showing me how to get it, and I just literally for like 2-3 weeks, it was like embarrassing how lack of, I call it now, movement intelligence, like from lifting and stuff like that, my ability for somebody to show me something and then like pick it up was garbage. Like it was terrible. So that movement IQ, because of like just being in the gym and just going, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to do 5 reps here, then add 5 more pounds, and then do the movement intelligence aspect of like learning actual new physical patterns was totally underdeveloped because I just wasn't doing it, you know? So that was awesome. That was one of the first real signs that I really was like, I loved being that level of a beginner at something where I was really struggling in it. And then there was the breakthrough. And then that breakthrough was so awesome because it's like you're feeling, okay, I completely couldn't get this, and now I can do this. And it's like, okay, that was awesome. And then you actually see how easy it is. You're like, oh, this is actually not that hard. Now I can express my strength more because now I know basically the path of least resistance on it.
Right. So how long did that take you to get this lizard crawl?
Yeah. So that one, it honestly, it took me almost like a month, bro.
Yeah.
Like it was a month.
You working this every day, every other day? Like,
yeah. So it was, see, that was the transition. It was a weird one because like when you start and I work and I feel this with some people who are playing around with like feeling, okay, like I still need to lift weights, but I want to get better at movement. And like I was in that transition phase of like, I want to keep size, I want to keep my strength, I want to be able to move well. So I was trying to figure out that spread of how that balance would work, because it was challenging, because there had to be a level of kind of ego dropping, of like being able to be like, okay, I've done this for long enough that I can give this up for a little while to work on this. So it started with me doing maybe, 15, 20 minutes of some movement work along with my regular strength sessions. And then it evolved into a period of time where I said to myself, I was like, I'm going to give up what I've actually put in all this work on, and I'm going to focus on this movement work. And I actually focused pretty much on 3 primary areas that I just said to myself, I was like, you have no skin in the game on any of these areas. So you need to just literally focus on them and stop these other ones. So I started with really dialing in on flexibility and mobility work. I started to really focus on hand balancing, and then I really started to focus on acrobatics. So those 3, and I never did them in my life. So I was like, all the energy that I'm putting into lifting weights, getting strong, if I put that same nervous system output into those things, I'll make progress. And I'm okay with, there was that small piece where you're like, all right, you have to be okay with losing a little bit of strength. It's fine. You could build that back up.
Did you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I lost some strength. I lost some size, but again, it was something that it was more on a maintenance mode. So like the strength that I built previously helped me in a lot of other things. So like that period of time where I built that strength, that helped me with get my handstand. That helped me get my flexibility, because I had this structure in my shoulders and in my hips to now actually try these things. Because if I would to go into those 3 things without that background of strength training there, I probably wouldn't have made as much progress as quickly. So I set myself up pretty decently with that background there. And reflecting back on it, it's really how I teach a lot now, is I really teach people to get strong first, build a foundation, and then to play with skills, to play with deeper ranges of motion become a lot easier.
I love it. That's as you were saying that, I'm thinking, okay, who's coming to you now? Who's like the person, like who's coming through Move and saying, okay, Jason, teach me how to do a proper handstand and hold it and walk and do all the fun things. Yeah. Are they prior gymnasts? Are they athletes? Or is it someone who's never lifted a weight in their life? I mean, who's coming through, or is it all the above?
It's a nice blend. So like just through working with people, I've worked with a lot of different people and a lot of different populations, and I think that the people that get the most out of working with me are the people that have been previously physical, like, and this is just say getting the most, like in the most impact in their life, the people that really, because I think for some people this type of practice, when they get into it, I see it like totally transform their life and being like, wow, really feel passionate about this, something I have. It's like this unbelievable, it's like this gift that you can have with your body. But the people that get that, I feel like have already crossed the boundary of being physical. So like the people that I work with that can get that out of it are already almost previous. They may be previous bodybuilders. They may be previous athletes. They may be somebody who's been physical for a certain period of time, and they're just getting very, very sick and stagnant with their current routine, and they're looking for something else to do with their body. Similar to myself, like this was my ability to continue expressing myself physically after being done with sports,
right?
So it continued that, because otherwise it would have been like a hole that would have just not been fulfilled, So it was really nice to be able to have that. And the people that I work with that do have that background where it's like, okay, I've crossed the hump of like, yeah, I move pretty much every day. I'm giving myself time to move, but what's my intention with my movement? Like, my time is being invested into just going to the gym and doing the machines, or my time's being invested into something that can be long-term and sustainable, and I can have a lot of enjoyment and fun with my body. And that's the people I think get the most out of it. But yeah.
Well, as you say, sustainable. So as I'm watching you do some of this, I'm thinking, how do you prevent injuries?
Yeah. So that's a big one, because that's another population that I work with a lot, is people who are previously injured. Now, there's two sides of it. The previous population of people I talked about, I think they get a lot out of it in a way of being able to, again, do pretty awesome things with their body, work on skills, and challenge themselves. But there's another population that I think, like I work with, that actually really needs it from the injury preventative standpoint as well, where people like that are coming out of surgeries or previous injuries or physical therapy, where they're immediately out of a surgery or physical therapy. They're just going back into the gym and essentially just doing bodybuilding routines. This type of stuff has given me the ability to, and I call it like mechanical, because like it's mechanical in a way of, if you're considering your body like your car, it allows you to really have an understanding of which tools you need to use to tune up your car, to being able to ensure that no matter how hard you drive that thing, you're not going to break it down. So that is the other side of it, is that the stuff and the skills that I work on, they're not completed without tremendous amounts of mechanical work, like along with it. So I do a lot of mechanical injury prevention, prehab based strength training, flexibility training that helps me do this long term. And it's something that young athletes can get away with, doing skills, flips, acrobatics, whatever sports, without that stuff. But if you're past the age of 25 and you want to do something more dynamic with your body, you have to learn how to have this toolbox for yourself, for your own body. So you're like, my elbow hurts, my knee hurts, my hip hurts. Okay, I know what to do based off of these things. And that's what I've learned through the process.
So back to your journey in that learning, how was it just that one teacher that you learned from?
No, so he actually grew my exposure. So actually working with him, he sent me to an actual Ido Portal seminar. So he was like, dude, I know you're really obsessed with this. I want you to teach here with me. I want to get you some more exposure. He sent me to an Ido Portal seminar.
Where was that?
That was in Ohio. Okay. So there was some teachers from there, and a bunch of other movers from across the country came, and it was phenomenal. So that was one of the first times that I got some actual like hands-on information from the source from there. And then I just started really seeing that I needed to dive into where this information was coming from. So like the information in the Ido Portal method had a lot to do with taking and extracting things from other like disciplines that have been around for a long time, like gymnastics, capoeira, structured strength conditioning protocols, things like that. So it really just, I looked at that and being like, okay, well, if that's where he's drawing from, I'm going to just start to look into the source of those things.
Skip the middleman.
Yeah, so I started to just get way more into learning about acrobatics and looking at disciplines that had a lot more acrobatics in them, like capoeira, tricking, breakdancing, learning a lot more about gymnastics, strength training, learning a lot more about flexibility protocols, strength protocols that have been around for a long time.
What's the hardest thing that you've learned, like it took you a while to master? Or are you still working on?
It's always a work. That's the thing about the body, is that we're given, it's like the same thing as the brain. It's like we only know we know this much, barely. So like the capacity of the body is so unbelievable, and we only just scratch the surface of it. And to say that anyone is a master at knowing their body or knowing how to heal people's bodies, it's a complete lie, because it's always a work in progress. When I work with people and people have problems or injury, it's always giving my best. I'm giving them, in my experience, the best chance for them to succeed or overcome, but it's never guaranteed, right? So the more that you engage with it, with the body, the more that you play with it, the more that you go through the ups and downs, the struggle with it, the more that you learn about it. Right. So I think that like things that have been challenging for me is learning how to, even with my own body and with other people's body, is learning how to overcome injuries from a physical and a mental standpoint, learning how to move around injuries, learning what's safe to do within injuries. So injuries have been like one of the best Like they're really one of the best teachers in terms of the body. It's like unbelievable what injuries can do in terms of you learning about
Break
them.
that down. What do you mean by that?
Meaning like when you get injured or when someone gets injured, one of the really amazing things is that if you continue to still move amongst the injury, you'll realize how much you can still do and how there may only be a few certain planes of motion that may be really limited. But a lot of people choose the route based off of doctor's advice or just fear of making the injury worse. Complete rest. They're like, hey, my shoulder's done. I can't do anything with my shoulder. I got to stop this. And one of the big things I took away from one of Ido's messages is if you get an injury, the moment that you say you're going to stop moving because of the injury, that's when it's done. You're never going to go back to it. It's just done. And some of his advice was try to move amongst that injury in small ways. So if it's in very, very micro ways, and that's been my philosophy with it, is I really try to get people understanding that injuries are just like life. You're going to have down times in your life. You're going to have injuries with your body. It's like, it's not always just a linear thing. You're going to have times where you're really down. Right. You're going to have times where your body's really down. But when you're down in your life, what's the advice you're supposed to follow? You're not supposed to just like dull in it. You're supposed to like try to make it better. How can you still be positive about your life?
It sounds like the body is through this. I heard you say you call movers. Is that the name in the community? You guys are movers. Yeah. That the body has been able to teach you things about the mind and life of overcoming. Like this analogy that you're using about an injury is so powerful. Yeah. And I'm huge on mindset. Mm-hmm. Big on mindset. You know, I think the mind feeds the body and the body feeds the mind, vice versa. And so I'm curious of like, have you worked with people in the sense that maybe have been able to overcome things mentally because they've been able to learn to move their body in like a yoga fashion? Because it's almost like this is a very extreme yoga, because to me, yoga, you're stretching the body, you're gaining strength through stretching. Yeah. I do a good bit of yoga, and it releases things that you're storing in different areas. You know, we store a lot of emotions in our hips.
No doubt.
And a lot of the stuff I see you're doing is a lot of hip stuff. Yeah. A lot of hip openers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that the emotional component it's so key. I see when I work with somebody, I see how they move. I could tell a lot about them just from a personal standpoint about how their work ethic in regards to a movement session, on the choices they make with their body. So the physicality portion and the mental portion, they're two of the same. So the habits that you have in your life are the same habits that are going to show up when you do movement. They're completely the same.
Okay, tell me a little more about that. Because Okay, so I got bad habits in life. And now I show up on the mat and I'm out there and you're saying, yo, bro, what do you got going on?
Dude, 100%. So if something like organization, you know, is something that's like really like you following like a protocol in your life is something that's really hard for you to do. You know, when I work with you and I see you and I'm being like, okay, we're going to go from this to this, we're going to do X amount of reps or something like that. I can see if somebody really struggles with those levels of protocols versus somebody who is very good with that. But then there's the other person that is completely structured, boom, 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 boom. And then I say to them, all right, 2 minutes of free movement flow. And they have no idea what to do. And I'm like, that's it. So it's like, I try to see what parts of like who you are in terms of like what type of person are you just naturally, like where do you succeed, and then I try to see, all right, do you not like to live at all, like where do you, and I'm like, all right, that's where we got to live a little bit, we got to live there, let's make this good, we'll take advantage of this, but let's also live on this part that you have no skin on the game on.
The extremes, because it sounds, I bet you the person who's not that organized on that, you say free movement and they're losing their mind in the best way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Some people really like, for me, I loved those things. Like when I'm exposed to things that I'm terrible at, there's obviously this ego portion. You're just like, oh my God, I'm so bad at this. And then like the repetitive nature of having to address it it's hard. It's not easy, but it is such a awesome, gratifying feeling where you see yourself changing dynamically in that way, where you're like, okay, this year I was this person, and now this year I have all these other things, and I can do all these other things. And that's really awesome. It's like super powerful to make those changes with your body, because I think that it gives you this confidence in your life of being able to make changes in your life that can like help you, succeed just more even past just the movement sense. So it gives you that confidence.
It's really cool, and you're making me interested. So I'm curious. So you're brand new. I show up.
Yeah.
What's the first thing we're doing?
So yeah,
are you running me through some kind of test to see where I fall on the into being a mover?
Exactly. So like when we start with somebody over at Move, the first thing that we do is we take them through a program called Fundamentals. And our system over at Move is really cool because we're not a typical gym where, if for instance like a yoga facility or something like that, or a boot camp gym where people are coming in off the street and be like, oh, I just want to go try this class. We really don't like that, because we want our gym to be set up almost like a school, in terms of people coming in and being able to have an organized routine and us knowing them very well, so that when they're coming there, like, we know what they're working on, so they don't have random people coming off from the streets. So this program, the Fundamentals program, is the way that we get to know you, and we take you through our movement assessments. We teach you the beginning foundations of our curriculum that you would see in classes. So we're able to teach you the very, very base elements and layers that you would see, again, in a lot of the programming that you would see in class. And it's something that we get to see your body move as well. So it's a great way of getting started.
What's your favorite movement? Like, if you're like, hey, we'll go back to free flow in time. Mm-hmm. Jason's out there. What do you throw? What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for myself, I always go back to lower body dynamic work. There's just something about, for me, I've always been more of a lower body athlete. So games like baseball, basketball have always like really intrigued me because of the emphasis on the lower body, the jumping and the running. And then I've had certain phases where I've enjoyed things more, but now these days I enjoy acrobatics. I really enjoy being able to feel connections that have a real nice sense of fluidity, and there's components of speed, there's components of power, strength, coordination. I really, really enjoy those things. I know that there's a timeline on them, so I like that my body's able to play with them at this point, because I know that they're not forever. And I try to give respect in that way, where it's like, if I have the body to do it now at 60, 70 years old, I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm juicing out my tank and getting the most out of it right now.
How wise to be looking ahead, to know, to think about it on that timeline.
Yeah.
We have a funny relationship with time.
No doubt.
And it is finite.
It is. So a lot of people go through that with their life, where they're like, some people are not physical at all, and I can understand it from a certain standpoint of, like maybe people, do art or they play music and they express themselves in those ways, but the body is finite in that way. And it's amazing the things that you can, with time and dedication, express and explore with your body. And I think that those things, some people, they don't have the tools to even get started with, and it could be overwhelming, it could be scary, and those things are, once things start to connect, it's like one of the greatest feelings, though.
Do you find that some people show up with a lot of fear?
Yeah, I think that, again, with the type of training I do, the stuff that they see sometimes, there's definitely some intimidation by some people. There's always been like, okay, I'm going to get this taken care of, my shoulder taken care of, then I'm going to contact you, or I'm not ready for that yet. I'm going to start coming to your classes when I get a little bit more strength. And I think that's always like an interesting, way to look at it, because I think being able to put yourself in a scenario of discomfort and being able to show up day after day amongst some levels of failure, I think says a lot about somebody. And I really, really appreciate all my students that have done that, where they're failing, they're not succeeding, and they're continuing to show up. I love that, you know, but a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people are very into, and then that day that they say, I was like, oh, when my shoulders didn't go, it never comes.
Right.
It never
Yeah,
comes.
never
It never
comes.
comes.
Right.
Once the belief is, it's like, once that, you already put that thing on there, it never comes around. So it's like, you have to immediately allow yourself to drop the ego, and there's a lot of students that I have that do that, and that's where they make the breakthroughs, is like being able to drop the ego and being able to fail, and then having to have a breakthrough. And once those failures start to accumulate, you start to get this nice spread of success, and then it can be easy to just hang out in that nice successful spread.
Right. And you gotta push again,
and then you gotta push again. Then you gotta be like, I can't stay in that too long, because if you want the next level, but it's a fine balance, because the mind is tricky in that way of like, you know, you have to give yourself. So one of the things that really helped me with the consistency is on days that I didn't want to move or train, I would say to myself, I'm gonna work on the things I really enjoy today. You know, versus being like, oh, I don't want to train today. I have all this stuff I got to continue to do. I'm just going to force myself to do all the stuff I suck at. No.
You go have fun.
Exactly.
I was like, to the finite time. You only have a limited amount of time. Why not have fun?
Exactly. So I was like, I'm going to continue to progress today. I'm going to still have a good session, but I'm going to work on the things that I enjoy. And on a day that I can maybe take a little bit more, I'll work on the stuff I suck at, and I'll give it a little bit more failure. So I think it's like having that balance there, because the people that throw themselves into failure too quick, they just burn out. You'll just burn out.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to play the long game with it.
That's a fun thing, and the art of balancing burnout. We're actually having an author come on the podcast that wrote a book about burnout. So I'm curious to learn more about that from her.
Yeah.
I want to transition a little bit into St. Pete. As we are talking St. Pete. Tell me, what are some things that draw you to this area? You know, I'm originally from Pennsylvania. You're coming from New York. Like, why do you think people love St. Pete so much?
Yeah, I think that it's a really beautiful city in many different ways. One of the first things, my experience with it was coming from New York. I used to come down here and I would go to St. Pete Beach and like the Don Cesar, and I really loved the beach. Like, it was just an absolutely beautiful area. From there, I started to get ingrained in some of the community, especially some of the holistic health community here as well. And there was one facility that started to catch my attention when I was starting to look for more movement. There was a facility called the Movement Sanctuary in St. Pete, and that was also a facility that I taught at for a little bit, and I really appreciated how they were promoting movement, different styles of movement. They do a lot of acro yoga, they do a lot of aerial silks, they do handstands, they do flexibility, so they have a wide variety of different things there as well. And it was a gym that started to connect me to other people and other people doing movement in the area. So that was a really nice place. That was a nice hub for learning a little bit more of what St. Pete had to offer in terms of movement. So it's a cool spot. If you guys haven't been, go check it out.
Yeah, no, it is neat, and they do fun things in the evenings as well.
Yeah.
With the music and ecstatic dance and all kinds of cool stuff.
So it's like a really nice open free play that really embraces a lot of different movement styles. So I really liked that was even there in St. Pete. And then there's another place that I find myself at a lot. I train out there. It's one of my absolute favorite places. I think it's like one of the most healing places in the whole city. It's North Shore Park, and over in that area. And there,
what are you doing out there? Because there may be some people that are listening that recognize you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, because it's not.
So I'm always there, and I'm doing handstands. I'm doing flips. I'm working with people out there. I'm hanging out with my friends.
Right?
Near the bars, by the playgrounds. Yeah, exactly. So I'm always out there, and I'm having a great time. And it's more of that kind of back to New York playful park vibes, you know, like on the park, you know, and it's really that. And I love that about that area, is that it's dynamic in that way.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Because when I some people that you were coming on, and I said what you do. They go, oh, I think I've seen that guy out at North Shore.
Yep.
You know, there's some staple people in St. Pete. You know, there's apparently a speed walker that speed walks down Central. You know,
Oh, wait, down Central? No, I know a speed walker that's at the park.
Okay, well, he might fly by there. I think he's going so fast. He might come. He might swoop through.
Yeah.
But so if anyone knows that guy, we need to find out his name and get him on here.
Yeah.
But people have recognized you from that, and I love that. You talk about, you know, the movement sanctuary, that community. There's all these little pockets of neat communities in St. Pete that are very eclectic and very cool and very free thinking,
of course,
and accepting of people. It sounds like you found that there as you got introduced to some other cool people as you went into that.
Yep.
What else do you like to do in St. Pete?
Honestly, that's really my thing, man.
Right. You're movement. Locked in there.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I'm locked
Fair
in.
enough. What do you think we're missing?
Missing, I think, is more of it. I think it's more of it, you know? So I think that there's not enough of it. I also don't think that there's enough of, like, the movement sanctuary offers levels of kind of different disciplines, but there's things that I think other cities have from a cultural standpoint that that it's not as big here in regards to movement. So things like some dance cultures, and I think St. Pete is lacking in some of that. Some of the nightlife dancing and the physicality in the nightlife scene, I think, is not quite as there.
Tell me more about that, because I'm intrigued.
Of course. So it's like, so obviously the movement sanctuary has a static dances, and there's a couple more places in the area that share that. But you go down into the downtown scene, and there's not a big prominent force of movement down there on like a Saturday night or a Friday night. It's going out. There's people out there, but they're not out there
not to dance.
Move.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like,
So it's like the movement scene and the support of the movement scene from a standpoint of like, we're going to go out to dance. There's going to be movement. There's going to be crazy movement. There's going to be a lot of good music to move to. What
kind of dance are you talking about? Not the ecstatic dance. That's not
all types of dance. House dance, break dance, shuffle dance, contemporary dance, whatever. Like a lot of different styles of those things, I think, and having them more open to the community and having more of those things available in the evening, the nighttime scene would be awesome, because, you know,
I wonder if it's a Good Boy Johnny. Well, there's some place opening. I don't know why the name slipped my. It's good vibe, Good Boy something. It's near Central and like Second, I think, right near Janice Live. There's going to be a place opening. They've been going through permanent issues for a while, and I think it's going to be like this '70s club type of vibe thing that it could maybe have a little more dance in there. You know, I had Steven Strutt on the podcast, which owns like 7 places throughout St. Pete.
Oh wow!
And he had just opened the Lost and Found, which has the potential, like it's like that 70s disco. Yeah. You know, so there's maybe a little bit of that, but I think I want to say Good Boy Johnny or Good. I don't know. We'll have to. We'll throw it right here. I will do the research. We'll figure it out. Maybe Dom. Maybe you can do a little. We're doing a little Google here quick to see if we can get the proper name. But from what I've seen, there's places is in Chicago, and now they've been trying to open a place here, and it looks like this. Maybe close in this dance category that you're looking for, because let me tell you, I like to dance. You know, I want to go out with some friends that aren't afraid to move. Their egos aren't in the way. Not to the point of like ecstatic dance. That's on another level of like no shit's given, right?
No, exactly.
But you know, to have a place to take your friends and have a good time. I think you're right. I like that. I think you're right. St. Pete, come on, we need a good place.
Good Night John Boy.
I was close. Good Night John Boy.
Nice.
Yeah, what's the status on that? We got to find out. That place they're supposed to be opening soon. I think they're going to be a cool dance spot. Is St. Pete home for you forever?
For right now, don't know about forever.
Forever's a hard word to throw out there.
I'm a Sagittarius, so I like to move around. So that's it's something that's why I came from. I grew up in New York, and then that's why I stayed here, because I'm the type of person that I like to experience type of city for a period of time, and then I like to ingest new things and cultures.
You think do you think you'll still be here in 3 years?
Potentially.
And what do you think? So you at Move? Yeah. What's the trajectory for that place in the next 3 years?
Yeah, the trajectory is that we're a global business. So like we work with people around the United States, around the globe on online coaching as well. So we have a facility in Clearwater where we do classes, we do a lot of group training, individual training, but then we have a bunch of students that are just doing online coaching as well. And I spend a lot of my time working with people.
Is that all you're doing?
No, I'm doing a mixture of privates,
Okay.
a few group classes, and online coaching.
Got it. But Monday, like your main gate, your fitness.
Yeah,
the
that's
instructor.
it. Yeah, that's
it.
it.
Got
That's
it.
it.
Practicing
Yep.
it all the time.
Yep.
And has that been over the last 8-9 years?
That's been pretty much since I graduated school.
That's awesome.
So it's been awesome to do.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see. You definitely need to check it. What's your Instagram handle?
At Jason.Lapiana.
And we'll put it right here as well. So
Cool.
before we wrap up, I gotta ask every guest a favorite place to eat in St. Pete, and you can have more than one.
My house.
Yeah. What are you making?
Oh, a lot of stuff, man. I mean, that's one of the things I do. I'm always making different. I try to eat organic. If it's organic, if it's local, that's what I'm eating.
Okay. Where are you getting your groceries?
Love St. Pete's Farmers Market. All right, shout out to the St. Pete's Farmers Market. I do support Rollin' Oats in downtown St. Pete. So those are kind of my two staples.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you're at home chefing it up.
Yep.
Chefing it up.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that. And how can we get in contact with you and in the gym?
Yeah, so you guys can also check out Move's Instagram, which is at move underscore training underscore calisthenics, and then also movegst.com. All right, you guys can check us out there, fill out consultation.
It's not St. Pete.
No, that's in Clearwater.
Everyone listen. It's okay. Yeah. It's a really cool spot, though.
I live in St. Pete, and I still drive there. That's how much I love it. I drive there every day.
People know on the show by now, I would hope, that I have like this thing. It's not like if you got to cross the bridge, or if it's on St. Pete. But it's all right.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Good deal. Well, Jason, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Your story is awesome. What you're doing is fantastic. Keep it up. Keep sharing. Everyone, you need to go follow just to get inspired and see the cool shit that this guy is putting out there for us to watch and inspiring all of us. If you haven't subscribed and you've made it this far, please go do that. Like, share, tell a friend, and let us know who else should we have on the show. I'm always intrigued. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one. Bro.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah, dude, that was cool, dude. Your knowledge and your depth of experience on that is deep.
Thanks,
deep.
bro.
I can tell.
Yeah,
like you're
appreciate it.
You're well versed in this space.